Welcome everyone. Welcome back. And after the summer break, Dominic gave us an accelerated schedule, which feels like we are meeting twice every week, which is fantastic. And for for anyone who's now has whose fear of missing out I've triggered now. We are not meeting twice every week. We're meeting almost every week, and there are recordings for everything, so you didn't miss anything. But obviously, being here live is always much better and much more fun than watching it on YouTube. Saying that to all the people who watch it on YouTube. I've never seen it on YouTube. I'm always here live, and I can tell you it's the best. Speaking of the best, I would like to introduce Ron and Sherrie, and Ron and Sherrie are the people behind webcurrents. And what webcurrents is, I think that Ron can explain it the best.
Yeah. I don't know if I can explain it the best, but that's probably Sherry, more
Okay.
on the producer side. But yeah, I mean, web currents, it is our contribution to the conversation around web development. And the goal is not to really share just Adobe's point of view. I guess Adobe's point of view, but not from Adobe's technology point of view necessarily. So we're not talking product all the time. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like features, functionality. We're talking about what is the state of web development today for developers and what should developers be thinking about. And so we invite some people who spend a lot of their time thinking about these kind of things. So we had Lars yourself on the first episode, along with one of our Adobe AEM champions, Rakesh, and we had a fabulous conversation. So if anyone who hasn't seen that, by all means check that out. But Web Currents is our new program that we're looking to get out monthly. We're working on our next episode right now. It's
Yep.
in the editing room. Sherry and I are putting that together, but yeah, that is Web Currents. Or
Okay.
Sherry, if you want to anything to add.
Yeah. So Sherry, as a producer, how did your host how did your host do?
How did oh he did pretty great. I mean, I had to edit as we always do, but no, the reality, right, is we know YouTube is so like fast paced. So what's the balance of keeping it useful but also keeping attention? So it is definitely trimmed down to be an efficient recording so that you can get the most out of it without needing to put it on like 4x speed. So that's the goal. But yeah, huge shout out to Lars and to Rakesh for being our first episode. And the second one will be ready tomorrow. So we're excited about that.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of
So
fun.
so as somebody who's watching this video, how much time should I invest in this? Asking as somebody with a limited attention span, to be honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I believe the first one is 20 minutes. Does that sound right, Ron? 20 minutes? I think
I
it's
think a
20 minutes.
little bit longer than that, but yeah, I should look that up.
25 minutes. I just looked. I dropped in the chat. It's 25 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the first one. And it is available on the aem-live YouTube channel. Thanks to
Right.
Lars and Dominic for letting us join your party over there. But it's also, or over here if you're watching the recording, but it's also on Spotify. So if you prefer podcast format, it's there too, or
Okay.
through
Cool.
Google Podcast.
Okay. You have to tell us how this is going in terms of viewership, um, because then I'm not a Spotify user myself, but then we can cross post this obviously. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
for sure.
Um, so um, Ron, you mentioned that we don't want to talk just about Adobe technology and Adobe's viewpoint, right? And if you would ask me what is Adobe's viewpoint on many web development topics, I would say, why do you think we have only one, right? So from your perspective, what are three of the of the controversies that make web development an interesting area of software development
Yeah.
in 2024.
I mean, I think in terms, I mean, if you're talking about controversy, there's always more than one way to do things, right?
Right.
So there's always more than one type of technology that you use in your developer toolbox. There's more than one language. There's more than one framework. Whether you're doing server-side rendering or you're doing, something else. So where are you putting your martech, what tag manager? There's so many decisions to be made and so many things that you can do to optimize your particular experience. And I think the controversy is, how do you make the best choices for your situation? And certainly it's variable based on where you find yourself and as a developer what you've invested in. And the
Right.
world is, shifting. I think for AEM developers, especially, who have traditionally been focused around Java development,
Mm-hmm.
and now with edge delivery services, we're moving to this, vanilla framework, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. So really functional. But again, it's developers that are having to kind of expand their um, I don't know, their knowledge or their mindset,
Mm-hmm.
but it's especially expand what they're investing their time in doing.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of controversy, it's always a decision, right? So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if that answers your question exactly, but because I don't know if I
Is
had
there,
three
Yeah.
controversial subjects.
is there ever not controversy in tech though? I mean, we all have pretty strong opinions, right?
Yeah, no,
Right.
and when Ron said there's more than one way to do it, I felt a little offended because obviously from my perspective there's only one way of doing it, right? So
Exactly.
and
No one's ever opinionated as a
right,
developer, right?
right.
Like,
There's one canonical programming language which is the best, always has been the best, and always will be the best. And
there you go.
and it's JavaScript, right? There's no argument about this.
Yeah.
And
It's the one that you've picked.
exactly, exactly, right? So
You can never be wrong.
yeah, and as you mentioned, the um, being being a web developer means to be somebody who learns, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things that, and I've been in web development since the last millennium, I have to say. um, and um, and yeah, I think I started in 1998 probably. So and and the on the one hand, there are a couple of fundamentals, right? That even in 1999, I did HTML and I did CSS and I did a bit of JavaScript, but the kind of thing that HTML is, the kind of thing that JavaScript is in particular, and probably even more the kind of thing that CSS is, has changed massively in that time,
Yeah.
right? And if you didn't
Massively.
if you didn't pay attention, if you didn't pay attention, then it's easy to get off the carousel, right? So and I remember that a, a couple of years when I was fresh from university, I was basically the CSS expert in my team, right? And now nobody would trust me with any CSS, and all I do is I try to stay within the well-established footpaths that my betters established in the projects that I'm contributing to, and I'm always double checking, right? And double checking with Copilot and with ChatGPT, and double checking with CSS tricks and MDM, and I think that's another fascinating thing about the web these days, is that there's so many high quality information sources, right? That it's not just a necessity to learn, but it's often a joy to learn, and that's something that I'm really thankful for.
Yeah, I think the resources available today are exceptional, that more than they were, 5, 10 years ago. It's just no comparison. I mean, you
Yeah.
mentioned Copilot. I mean, it's massive, massive
Yeah.
time saver. ChatGPT, all of these assistants that allow, to take an initial swag at something
Yeah.
and get it 90% of the way there. Huge,
Yeah.
massively huge.
And so one of the things that I found about these assistants, and Tom, I don't know if how much of your thunder I'm going to steal with this, but so please join us in the conversation. Is one of the things that I found is that these AI assistants are often very, very biased to whatever the status quo was when they were trained, right? So when you ask them
100%.
one of my my fun challenges is search for an up-to-date React tutorial, right? Which at some point is going to come with the Hello World component. And the Hello World component is something where you think, oh my God, why do I need a component for this, right? This should be just an H1 Hello World, closing the H1 again. But obviously, right? And then you ask, okay, why do you need 15 lines of code for that? But the real challenge is copy this into ChatGPT and then ask it to turn this into a vanilla HTML. And the last time I tried, I just couldn't for the world get it to turn this React into vanilla HTML or vanilla JavaScript if you need it. But it would always turn it into different and more modern React.
My talk next week is all about edge delivery services and AI, and I can get AI to turn anything into an edge delivery services component. I can give it JSON, I can give it text, I can give it an image, I can give it a prompt, and I will end up with a documented, testable proof with fantastic. I can't wait to show you all next week. It's all about training the AI on top of its base knowledge.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you basically created a RAG by feeding it the information that it needs, the thing that it missed.
Yeah.
Right. And thank you so much for doing that. Yeah, I've read through your article, and I'm in the middle of following it with Claude. So yeah, great.
Yeah, I've done so much more than my article says.
Oh, that's great.
I've gone 10 times better. So that's for next Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
based on just level.
Yeah. So so if you've been following the ChatGPT chatter, one of the interesting challenges is to get ChatGPT to tell you how many R's there are in strawberry. And this is an interesting challenge. ChatGPT thinks that there are 2 R's in strawberry, right? One in straw and one in berry, and getting it to admit its own mistake is incredibly hard. I managed to do it, and then I told ChatGPT from now on you can call me the prompt whisperer, which it did. So and I have to be honest, I find the term prompt whisperer much more fitting for what you do. In the same sense of horse whisperer, right? Than prompt engineer, right? It's you need to get a good feel of how to deal with the machine. So so Tom, I bestow upon you the title of prompt whisperer, and I'm excited to hear the details you have to share next week. Okay, so Sherrie, you mentioned there's an episode 2 coming out tomorrow, right?
Yes.
And that's Friday the 13th, and and that tells
Yeah.
me that you are
Coincidentally,
unafraid of
not intentionally.
perfect. So can you give us a sneak peek of what that episode is going to be about?
Yeah, I can. It's all about the content and commerce integration, so CMS and commerce integration. We're talking with Cedric as well as Tyler Kraft from Blue Acorn.
Okay.
Does Cedric need an introduction around here, or should we go with just Cedric?
We can go with Cedric. And Dominic is now going to frantically search the archives to find out which episode we had Cedric Hüsler here on the call. And I think Dominic is saying we might have had him twice. I remember one time when we were talking about SEO. And Cedric is leading product management for AEM sites. Let's how do we say a great friend of the show, and always a joy to a joy to see both with the camera and without a camera present. So
well, hopefully it will be a scary thing that happens tomorrow.
And I heard from Ron that there is already a third one planned, or can you also give us some kind of a sneak peek?
Yeah, I mean, well, certainly we can do that since, the person's here. So Chris and I sat down and talked about designer developer workflows, and I think had a fantastic conversation. We are going to have a heck of a time editing because Chris and I chatted for like an hour and a half, and so we're gonna have to cut that down to, we'll see. We have to see if we can cut that down to our 25-minute
It'll be a part 1 and part 2 episode.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we might cut that into the Criterion Collection extended version.
Yeah.
Yep.
Our goal is
mostly
always
on
to
top
stay
of that, I
within
know what
like
you're talking about.
our goal is always to stay within like the 10 to 20 mark, but I say that in our first episode was 25 because there was just so much gold from Lars and Rakesh. So, but I will say next week I'm spending a good chunk of time slicing up episodes 1 and 2 to release a bunch of YouTube shorts on the channel so that they're a little bit more digestible in that way. And then from there we'll go into editing episode 3, so it won't be as delayed as episode 2 was. So.
Yeah. Please tell me how the YouTube Shorts thing is going. That so having, and I've been pleading and begging and trying to convince Dominic to create shorts that we can put on TikTok.
Well, I will share the files with you and you can put them on TikTok.
Yeah. So
I don't know what happened to my day if I open the TikTok app, so I just try not to.
I can tell you what's going to happen to your day. You're going to think, oh my God, why do I have to get up the same time as the kids get up for school? All I want to do is watch more TikToks. So
Yeah, no, this has been my experience, although all my kids have fur, but this has been my experience, which is why I try to forget that app is on my phone, though it is.
I think it's a testament to what you can do with recommendation algorithms if you have a large enough user base and if you have a large enough inventory, right? It started with a bit of parental concern and turned into technological fascination until I got to the point of no return, where I now get mostly nerdy linguistics and folding by content, but that's.
Have you noticed that there's a weird trend on TikTok now, not to take it too far down the social media roadway here, but where it'll be a brand new video, but it's like parallel with like screws or something, like something completely unrelated.
Yes.
And for me, for my brain, I cannot focus on what the person is saying while this is happening right here.
Yes, and I've heard 2 theories why that's being done. Theory number 1 is that it helps people with attention deficit. right? Because if you get bored easily by just seeing talking heads, right? Seeing talking heads and somebody on the next screen is doing some insane DIY or playing Subway Surfer, apparently that helps. And explanation number two that I've heard is that this helps to circumvent copyright claims, right? Because these copyright algorithms are trained on the full video, and you can basically circumvent it by putting enough noise on the video, right? And that's also the reason why you sometimes see essentially reaction videos with just somebody filming themselves and the actual videos in the background, and you see their reaction. The reactions are extremely muted, right? It's not like you're watching it for the reaction, so it's very clear that this is in order to circumvent the to circumvent whatever content ID algorithm they have in place, and yeah, so
Yeah, maybe I do have a neurodiverse brain, but it does not work with mine. That's all I know.
Yeah.
I cannot focus on what they're saying when that happens.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a fun playground for sure. There's a lot
Yeah.
of different stuff happening there. So, and I think once we do have those YouTube shorts, if Dominic does want to take up your idea to run free on TikTok with it, you're more than welcome.
Yeah. So
Give you full power to republish those.
so
But I will say for anyone here and for anyone listening, like this is meant to be a very collaborative community show, right? So if there are things that you want to hear about or people that you want to hear from, we do want to know that. So please, by all means, just reach out and let us know.
Yeah, I think saying that, I think, but you're not only doing web currents and things, you're doing much more for the community. Maybe this is also interesting for our listeners to hear what's happening the rest of the year with the community. I think you're doing a lot.
Nice segue. Thanks, Dominic. You're better at promoting my stuff than I am. Yes, definitely. So I think probably the main thing you're hinting at is Developers Live is coming back this year in November 12th. And for the first time, it's going to be a hybrid event. So we're really excited. We have capacity to bring in about 300 people to our HQ in San Jose. We're going to use the same room we use for our company All Hands. So it's going to be really fun because they could be in Adobe and spend some quality time together. But then we'll also have the live stream component so that anyone anywhere in the world can still attend too, just keeping that accessibility factor there. So
yeah. I'm really looking forward to this. Booked flights last week, so
awesome.
So I'm going to be there.
And awesome. I hope to Mark will put you on stage then if he can.
and hope to see many of you there. And speaking of, I also got probably roped in is the best way to describe it to a panel discussion at Adapt 2 in October. So that's another thing to look forward. And Adapt 2 is in Berlin. So for me it's a bit of a local event. Not as exciting as San Jose, but
well, San Jose for me is a 1-hour flight. So.
But Berlin for me is a 45-minute train ride. So that's the I think that's the European equivalent of a 1-hour flight. So
definitely. Yeah. Most Americans couldn't tell you how to book a ticket on our trains, so we have them. We just don't know how to use them.
Yep. Yeah. So one question, when you start a new show like this, right? You always have shows where you think, okay, these people are doing it really, really well, and if we ever achieve something, then we are going to be half as good as them. What are your favorite or your inspirational tech shows that you used as a starting point when designing webcurrents?
This question always cracks me up because I am the worst podcast listener in the entire world. I don't ever remember to catch up to any of the ones that I'm subscribed to, and this is the second podcast that I've created. But Ron, I know you had some inspirations for sure for this show.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they don't necessarily come from tech. They're just mostly just podcasts. That format of having a conversation. I mean, um another video series that I do is App Builder Live, which talks about App Builder and our extensibility framework across AEM, Commerce, Workfront, AP, etc. And so that's not really a webinar. It's actually, I call it more Mark Schultz's format with his building experiences show, which is more showing than it is just a talk show. And so this was an opportunity to kind of take a step back from doing a webinar kind of show and kind of bridging between like something like this, like office hours or a hangout or the frequency Discord chat that we're in, and do something a little bit more structured, that's edited for attention and content, and then essentially try to create engaging content. So that's really what we're looking to do, and hopefully
Yeah.
we're hitting the mark. But I think the nice thing about starting out is being able to course correct pretty easily.
Right.
I mean, you can course correct anytime, but it's nice to throw something out there and see what the feedback and the engagement is, and then throw something else. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I will say too, we're also working with a consultant in the DevRel space who is very active on YouTube and constantly refining his learnings there and sharing that with us. And so that's been really helpful because he is very in tune with everything that's happening with DevRel on YouTube. So that's definitely been a plus. And the other thing is, I would say, well, we maybe weren't inspired by a specific show. We definitely went out and looked at what else is already happening in this space.
Right.
What's it called? What are they focusing on? What's their method? Just to make sure that we were adding something that was useful and not just like the 100th of something
Right.
that already exists. So that was definitely a goal too.
Yeah, I mean,
There's so much going on for developers at Adobe, right? So it's hard to be like, okay, where are the gaps that we can fill in and be useful rather than adding to the noise? So that's really what we're trying to do with everything that we do.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you think about all of the content that people are creating, right? So you've got this show, you've got the gems, you've got my App Builder Live, you've got experience makers. There's a bunch of different styles of content, and yeah. So as Sherrie mentioned, like trying to find what wasn't being served and trying to present interesting topics that people find useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and for me, it's also that the show to a certain degree always takes a bit of the shape of the presenters, right? So and that is that. Well, you can't change who you are, right? So and for our Discord frequency in particular, I think I accidentally stumbled into this because we said we wanted, so the history of this is that we originally had an internal Slack channel that grew to I think 1,000 people and became a really valuable resource, right? And then we said, okay, at the time we said it would be better to move this to a public forum, so that external contributors can participate. And these days I have to say, and in addition, it allows us to avoid the retention rules that we now have on Slack. So So that's another plus. And then we said, okay, now that we have Discord, we saw what other teams, other companies have been doing. And I think it was Dominic. Was it the Photoshop or the Firefly team? One of these
The
had
other
essentially a weekly.
Firefly and and Express.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot to them, and I mean Firefly is over 500,000. So yeah, it's quite a big community
Right.
in Discord. So yeah.
So and they also had this kind of weekly hangout. So so we said, yeah, let's try that, and by now it has grown to a community that I don't want to miss. And it's a really nice addition to the text-based nature that we have on the day-to-day, right? To say once a week we see each other, and can share random thoughts, random ideas, and on top of having a special guest every week. So
I think that is one of the great things. Sorry, Sherry. I think was one of the great things that I think you guys have done here is consistency, right? It building community, you have to be consistent. Otherwise, I mean, people aren't going to show up because they're going to be like, wait, they're not on this week. Well, they're on some, and not being on the same time or.
yeah,
So yeah, I think consistency is super important when building community.
yeah, and it's a bit easier when you're on a monthly schedule than on a weekly schedule. But
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
but what
And we were lucky, so we had a lot of topics, also like topics from Tom and from partners coming in. So we were lucky to have it now on a weekly base. We planned for a bi-weekly one, but we have too much content. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
good for us.
Yeah.
Good problem to have.
excellent, yeah,
Yes.
It's a good problem to have. I used to host a weekly show like this, and it was just,
Right.
it's great to be able to just have free flow conversation with some guidance provided so no one's just staring at each other like, what are we talking about? With people who are doing what you're doing, right? Like that's where all the good ideas come from.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The other thing, Dominic, to answer your question from a while ago, that's coming up for us, that's another gap we saw, is we are launching a developer newsletter for AEM. So that will hopefully be going live soon. We're just running into some roadblocks trying to reduce required field forms for everyone because there's too many right now. So always the struggle, but that's what we're working on, and then that landing page will be ready, and that we'll use that to connect all of these different channels, right? So that you know what are the top 5 things you need to know this month as an AEM developer, like where are you maybe not aware of community, maybe you don't know about the Discord channel, maybe you don't know about Developers Live, maybe you don't know about all these different things, right? Like how can we bring together the developer community for AEM from all these different places so that they know the places that they may want to get involved. So that's our goal with that.
Yeah, I think that's really great to hear, because I think that's exactly what we want to have. Also, this community of communities that you can just you pick and choose. Today, Discord is nice. Let's go to Discord. Or no, there is a conference coming up. Super. Let's register. I think it's a little bit difficult at the moment to get all this information. But if we can, I really like this. Yeah, super.
Even like the release notes, right? Like Mark Schultz, who's actually my manager, and him, Ron, and I work together quite a bit. He does a monthly release note video, and I don't know how many people know that, but I did add it to the aem-live channel, by the way. So there's a playlist there so people can find it easy. But there's just all kinds of stuff going on. So
I know that because it's now showing up organically in my YouTube recommendations. So
perfect.
Yep.
Your algorithm understands.
Yep. Exactly. I was looking how to recenter a bicycle wheel, and it said, don't you rather want to know what's new in AEM 2408? And I said, yeah, maybe tomorrow morning. So
you're like, I'm off the clock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, and I have to say the fact that we have really these many layers to the community. Right? There's stuff that Adobe is doing. There's stuff that partners are doing. There's stuff that that independent contributors are doing. I think this is making it really, really powerful, right? And on the flip side, this is obviously going back to Ron's earlier point. There's more than one way of doing it, right? And this wide spectrum of the community also reflects the wide range of approaches to AEM in particular, but also to web development in general. And it's something that I'm glad that we have, right? That we have this wide community where a lot of innovation and a lot of discussion is happening.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, like you take what Goran and Katurk are doing around gems and the gem sessions, and then what is it, Sherrie, the contextual threads that they, yeah. So like having the content there is great, but then amplifying the engagement of questions, all the Q&A that comes in, all of that, and then putting a structure around that so that it's searchable, it bubbles up so you can find it easily, I think is, yeah, they have been working to really fine tune
Yeah.
engagement, and it definitely shows. But yeah, definitely layers.
Yeah. Okay, so Dominik, I know that you came prepared with a lot of questions because I
Yes.
didn't. My
Not really a lot, no. I think I asked the most important ones. Maybe, yeah, I think one you already answered. I have how shall we grow this community together? So, I mean, we have a lot of communities, and I think Sherrie already answered a little bit. Yes, let's bring this all together and make it visible and transparent. What what else? What kind of ideas do you also have to, with the goal to have the best and the greatest and the largest conference of developers in 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to grow the community is if you are in the community, share what's important for you, right? Because the only way to grow it is to make it useful for the people who are in it, and then it grows from there. So for me, it's less about what I think about growing the community, or Ron or Dominic or Lars. What does everyone else think? Like, what do we need? What's missing? What could be better? What's not useful? Those are, I think, when we're able to really listen and talk with the community, that's when we're able to grow. Which is why this channel is so useful, right? Because you're in here talking with the community every week since Dominic found you an endless list of topics. And I've been meaning to be here for like what, a year now, but here I am. So sorry it took me so long.
Yeah, but that's great. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly, I think, the most important thing of a community. We have to try to bring value and good content, and yeah, I think that's our goal. That's what Lars and I always try to find, and that's why you also hear us, our guest, because this is value, this is content you bring in, and I think that's super important. Yeah.
Yeah, it's never my goal to waste anyone's time. So I don't want to do a project or initiative or program if it's not helpful for the people who are interested.
Yeah.
And I think the Discord format really ties to meet people where they are. Essentially, it was funny. Like when I told my kids, I'm like, yeah, AEM, we're doing a Discord channel on AEM for AEM, and they're like, what? Like I joined Discord with my kids in 2016 or even early. I mean, like it was probably 10 years ago. It was like the first thing that we could use for gaming on Minecraft and use it for voice chat with everybody, you know, in the house playing on their computer, my whole family. And so we've been on it forever. And then like I'm telling my high schooler now, yeah, we're on Discord. And they're like, wait, what? No.
Just wait till
No.
you tell them we have a TikTok. No, but wait, for real, I want to hear from everyone here. Why did you first join Discord, whether it was for this group or not? Curious.
Yeah, did you?
I don't remember anymore for what, but it was far before this Discord.
Yeah, I joined for Pokemon Go, so I'll just throw that out
Right
there.
I was also playing Counter-Strike.
Nice.
I joined for this channel, but then I've added and added and added.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Battlefield like 2.
Nice.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I have
Great
probably the most brand unapproved story why I joined Discord. I joined Discord in order to use Midjourney.
Yeah.
So and
I have that channel on the sidebar. I won't lie.
yeah. And to my defense, that was before we had Firefly. And I for whatever reason needed to generate an image of in Victorian era London. There was an event called the Great Molasses Flood, where basically a sugar factory exploded and the streets were stuck with molasses, right? Refined sugar. And I wanted to have something that with the same, but explosion at the bubblegum factory, because right, sometimes what we have to do feels like having to walk through this mass of bubblegum and it's sticking everywhere. And obviously with bubblegum it's all very bright and not as depressing as Victorian era London. So I had this image in my head, and the only way to get it out was Midjourney. So that's why I joined Discord, paid them, and got the incredible image of the great bubblegum explosion, bubblegum factory explosion. So
That's right.
Are you going to share that image with us?
I can see if I can find it. If not, I'm going to if not, I'm going to use the opportunity to regenerate it 2 or 3 years later with state of the art models and yeah. And
With Firefly then.
well,
Yeah.
with Firefly, of course. And if and if not, then I'm going to use this as an opportunity to do some benchmarking against other against other models. So, and to say one word about this, is that when it comes to these AI tools, in a lot of cases, it's not so much that it's often not that it matters which one is the best model, but which one is the one that you have at your fingertips, right? And that's obviously something where Firefly has an incredible advantage, being at the fingertips and whenever you do some creative work in the Adobe tools, right? And where Copilot has an incredible advantage whenever you're in Visual Studio Code, right? And like Tom, I've been experimenting with Claude Sonnet, and it's you can definitely see that whoever is the programmer there went to computer science university for 1 or 2 semesters longer than Copilot did, right? But is it so good that you want to install and download a new tool where you have it? Well, maybe. Tom is saying yes, and I'm stuck in my Visual Studio Code ways. So, well, that's something that we can discuss in detail next week.
After next week, you'll be using Cursor.
I actually started using it for 2 smaller exercises, and one was where I thought, oh, this is really just Visual Studio Code, Copilot, and a bit smarter. And then the second one, and Carsten was the beneficiary of that, was because we were basically discussing a topic, and I said, okay, I want this, and I told Cursor a couple of times, a couple of iterations, and then in the end I told Cursor, and now port this entire thing into Java, and Carsten, you can comment how well done that Java port was, because we had the same class in JavaScript and Java.
It looked much better than your usual code. Yeah, I can agree with that.
Okay, so that's a low blow. I really like that, Carsten. I'm probably going to think of a reason to invite you as a special guest in some of the next episodes. Now that I know that you have a Discord account, so.
Wait, Kirsten, you didn't tell us what made you start a Discord. Was it for this or something else?
It was actually for Copilot, GitHub stuff.
Okay.
There's a Discord for that stuff, and then yeah,
Yeah.
I had to join this one. Someone forced me.
Yeah.
I can see him right now.
What
Yeah.
about you, Sherrie? I don't know if you're somewhere you can unmute, but what made you join Discord?
Cool.
I saw Carrie
I
unmute.
think
but can't hear you.
Carrie mentioned that they are in a parallel meeting, so
All
might
good.
might be that
Good.
they have to pay more attention to the to 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 the
Don't worry.
to the actual meeting instead of the fun meeting.
We
So
have 8 minutes left. Maybe
Yeah.
just one quick. Are there questions you want to ask to Ron or Sherrie? Maybe there is something open you want to ask.
Questions or
No, also from our guests or from
Yeah.
our participants, if they want to ask you some questions, or if there's something open, or do you want to ask us something, whatever. All clear?
okay,
Just want to give the chance.
so
Uh,
not
I have a
Yeah.
question. So I want to
Yeah.
pivot and again another one you asked earlier, background. What's everyone's favorite tech podcast? Do you have one?
Yeah, I do have one, and so my inspiration for this to a certain degree was the Dithering podcast with John Gruber and Ben Thompson, which is it's an the funny thing about this is you're going to hear what the podcast is and you're going to say this is nothing like this, right? Lars, you completely missed the mark. So it's audio only. It's 15 minutes, super punctual. So they start with the ticking clock and they end with the ticking clock. So no 5 minute waiting for everyone to roll in and ending on whatever time is appropriate. And it's only the two of them twice a week discussing what's new in technology, right? With a lot of Apple focus due to Gruber's background, but also a lot of big picture view thanks to Ben Thompson. So really fantastic thing, and nothing like this. So yeah, so that's my favorite.
Hey, we can find inspiration anywhere, right? Whether or not it looks exactly like what we came from. Anyone else?
I have the MIT technology, but this is a German podcast actually,
Okay.
and also about maybe you know it, somebody of you heard about it. They are talking much about all kind of stuff, so technology in general. So AI is really, or German word for this is KI.
Yeah.
That's always interesting there to see. But also the energy sector is also very well covered. So the renewable, the green stuff, and so it's really change your scope a little bit and you thinking and see how they solve things, and so try to mimic this also in your everyday work. And also one of the things is also from Wired, but Gadget Lab, I think. But I don't know if it's still around, but I think they quit it because one of the hosts was moving to other companies or something like this. So I hope you will stay and not move to anybody. Anyway, soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me it's much easier because I don't listen to any podcast. I don't have the patience for that, to be honest.
Yeah, I found one of the things that you need to appreciate the medium of a podcast is you need a long commute.
Yeah.
And
Long commute
and
is-
right, so the work from home era has not helped with that. And for me it's I'm listening to podcasts when I'm on the bike. Right. The Brandenburg landscape is not that fascinating after a couple hundred kilometers here. So putting a podcast in is a welcome addition to this. Normally around this time, I'm asking Dominik what's up next week, but this time I can answer this because Tom is up next week talking about AI. And Tom shared this. Was it 2 weeks ago with me? And I was really blown away. And then Tom and I had the same idea. I said to Dominik, yeah, we need to put Tom on the schedule, and Dominik said, yep, Tom already approached me. So so that's perfect, and I'm hoping all of you tune in next week to hear and see what we can do with AI these days. It's incredible. Other than that, thanks to Sherrie and Ron for dialing in, for sharing webcurrents. And I'm just thinking, maybe next time Dominik and I go on summer vacation, we might even find 1 or 2 replacement hosts for us so that we can keep the consistency up. And of course, thanks everyone who dialed in live today, who participated, asked questions. And for all of you who didn't, great to see you on YouTube, and see you next week. Bye-bye.